Okay, Mr. Shriver, I believe that we are all set. We have our YouTube link is up and running. And based on what I see from number of participants on the Zoom side of things, we're up to 45 participants. And we will be able to check in on the YouTube side as well to find out how many visitors we have there in a minute. But Mr. Shriver, go ahead, you're good to go.
Great, thank you, Dr. Kreider. Then I will call to order the September 15th, 2020 meeting of the Carlynton School District Board of Directors. We always open with a pledge, so Dr. Kreider, do you want to lead us this week and do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, sir, I will. I pledge allegiance
to the
flag of the United
States of America
and to the
republic
for
which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty,
liberty, justice for all.
Thank you. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Sure. Director Frank?
Present.
Director Frank?
Present.
Director Honchar?
Here.
Director Russo?
He is not able to be here tonight.
Director O'Brien?
Here.
Director Mendoza?
I'm here.
Director Zaletsky?
Here.
Director Apple?
Here.
Director Simsek? Director Simsek?
Here.
Director Shriver?
Here. So at the beginning of each meeting, we invite the public to comment on any items that are on our agenda for the meeting. So Mr. Jones, is there anybody in the audience that has their hand raised to ask a question about an agenda item tonight?
It's Mrs. Zanoon tonight.
My apologies, Mrs. Zanoon. Do we have any members of the audience with their hands raised to ask a question about an agenda item for tonight?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. I'll get back to you later when we have our open forum at the end and see if there's any questions at that time. Thank you, Mrs. Zanoon. Moving on to the next section, I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes of previous meetings. So entertaining a motion to approve number one, the minutes of the August 18th, 2020 voting meeting, and number two, minutes of the September 8th, 2020 Finance Committee meeting. I have a motion for those two items.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any questions? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries, thank you. I'll report that we had an executive session prior to this meeting where we discussed potential litigation and personnel matters. And now I will turn to our superintendent for the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shriver. Once again, thank you to all of our community members joining us here this evening. We appreciate your input and appreciate all the support that you've provided over the past few weeks. As all of you recognize, back in late July, the district made the announcement to open up school under the remote model, and further in August followed up with more detailed plans of what all three phases potentially could look like as we move through the phases of reopening our schools. We specifically discussed the remote model, the hybrid model, and also the traditional model. We've had the opportunity over the past few weeks to learn quite a bit about what the remote model looks like and how it has functioned. We've received a lot of valuable feedback from our parents, also from our students, in regard to how the delivery of services is going. And to this point, we've received very positive responses in that regard. One of the things that we value in the process and that we find to be the most effective is that consistency of instruction that we are providing on a daily basis, working with students 5 days a week in a very consistent platform. Nonetheless, we do recognize that the face-to-face environment has many advantages, and in some cases we recognize that the remote learning can be a little bit more challenging for some grade levels, and the remote learning can also be challenging for some populations of students as well. What we are looking at over the next few weeks here, and we have a goal set in mind by the end of the first 9 weeks, is to roll out a different model from what we are currently sitting in right now. So we look to gather additional information. We may possibly deviate from our original plan that we had discussed in regard to remote, hybrid, or traditional. And we may take a look at certain subgroups of students. We may take a look at certain grade levels to bring in that transition to deliver instruction. But as we look at that model, as we had mentioned before, the pieces that we value are that consistent instruction being on a day-to-day basis, 5 days consistently working in one model, having a huge favor in the delivery of services. And like I said, our goal is to collect additional information, continue to monitor cases in the area, which cases recently have been very good. They've been under 100 for the past few days. And then also consider other information that as we watch other school districts with their opening plans as well. We have learned quite a bit in that process. But once again, taking a look over the next few weeks with a goal set in mind by the end of the first 9 weeks to come out with a new model that we will transition into at the very beginning of the second marking period. And again, that information will be shared in advance. And potentially along the way, we will solicit additional information from our parents and from our students in regard to plans to coming back to school, and then also feedback on the remote model that we've been providing up to this point. Mr. Schreiber, that is the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent, thank you. I will turn then to our committee heads and see if there's any reports from any of their work of the last few weeks. Director Apple, any updates for Parkway West?
No updates.
Okay, thank you. For Pathfinder, Dr. Hanshar, any updates for Pathfinder?
Tomorrow we will have our September Pathfinder meeting, but from the past meeting, we've got all of our kids are back into the building. Only one of our teachers will not be teaching, and that's nothing negative. He has kids at home young kids at home, elementary kids that he has to take care of. So we have all of our teachers. We had the largest graduating class earlier in the summer of 10 kids graduating Pathfinder. We started out with 84 kids in the beginning of the summer, 10 graduates to a total of 74 kids plus 4 new kids. So we have 78 in the fall, but I would think that the report tomorrow would be, we will be over 80. Our principal is following all safety issues as other public schools. The largest class at Pathfinder is only 12 kids. So there's no need for
Can't hear you.
Yeah, Director Hanshar, I think your connection.
Finder report.
There we go. Okay, very good.
Thanks.
Thank you. For Shazda, Director Zalewski, any updates on Shazda?
So they have scheduled, they have sent out a meeting schedule, but everything will be held virtually. And the first meeting, I believe, is October 14th. And the first event is not going to be until 2021, the Shazda Student Forum.
Okay, understandable. Yeah, thank you. The next two, I believe, Director Simsek, are you currently straddling both teams, the legislative PSBA and the foundation liaison?
Yes, I am. I'll report on Education Foundation first. We have met a couple of times. The decision was made that there will not be any in-person fundraising events for the remainder of the year. It's just not possible in this environment. Nevertheless, if anyone is so inclined, they can still make donations to the foundation by going on the foundation website. So there is a way to do that. So we're trying, while we would typically be spending time right now planning events for, the fundraising events, we're using the time to try to update the foundation website and also the alumni website. So, really trying to, spread out the duties for that and make sure everybody knows how to update those websites and how to make them fresh. And we're going to try to roll out, new websites within the next few months. So, looking forward to that. As far as legislative, the only thing I have right now to report is that there is PSBA, the virtual advocacy day is on October 8th. So any board member who's interested in signing up, you can go ahead on PSBA site and sign up to participate in that. So that's it.
Excellent, thank you. And I'm glad to see the foundation pivoting like everybody else is, trying to react to the new normal and doing some great work. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move on to the next section of our meeting under section 4 miscellaneous. I'll entertain a motion to approve the following 2 items. Number 1, the submission of the Carlynton School District emergency instructional time as it relates to section 520.1 of the school code and as amended component of the district's health and safety plan. And then number 2, motion to approve and elect the following candidates to serve as officers in a leadership role for the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, or PSBA. President-elect David Heim, Vice President Daniel O'Keefe, Treasurer Michael Gossert, Western at-large Representative Marcia Pletta, Section 2 Advisor Amy Kemick, Section 4 Advisor Brian Petula, Section 6 Advisor Andrea Kristoff, Trustees Michael Fraccinetto, and form a steering committee with Steven Skaraki and Tracy Long. So do I have a motion for those 2 items under section 4 miscellaneous?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Under section 5 finance, there are 6 items. I'll entertain a motion for the following. Number 1, to approve the bills for the month of August 2020 in the amount of $420,640.42. Number 2, the treasurer's report for the month of July 2020 as submitted. Number 3, approve and accept a grant from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency in the amount of $175,336 for the purpose of a Carlynton School District COVID safety project. Number 4, approve the 2020-2021 tuition agreement between the district and Pittsburgh Public Schools and its Pittsburgh Pioneer Program for students with exceptionalities as presented. Number 5, to approve the athletic fund report for the month of August 2020 with an ending balance of $4,499.95. And number 6, approve the activities fund report for the month of August 2020 with an ending balance of $91,980.67. So I have a motion for those 6 items.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Under section 6, real estate and capital projects, I'll entertain a motion to approve 2 items. Number 1, to approve the easement agreement between the district and the borough of Crafton for the property located at 1833 Crafton Boulevard as submitted. And then number 2, approve the second amendment to the real estate purchase and sale agreement that extends the initial 185-day assemblage and feasibility periods 180 days to March 15th, 2021 to Armstrong Redevelopment LLC. I have a motion for those 2 items.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Under section 7 personnel, I'll entertain a motion for following 10 items. Number 1, to approve the additions to the 2020-2021 activity supplemental list with new and returning sponsors as submitted. The stipend for supplemental position holders is contingent upon completion of the full school year and will be prorated in the event of a shortened or canceled school year due to unforeseen circumstances. Number 2, to rescind the motion of August 18th, 2020 that awarded the position of homebound instructor for a student to special education teacher Pamela Stone for 5 hours per week beginning August 24th, 2020 at an hourly rate of $40. Number 3, to award the position of direct instruction in the home for an elementary student to special education teacher Pamela Stone, retroactive to August 24th, 2020. Position entails up to 5 hours per week of instruction in the home at the teacher's per diem rate. Number 7.4, to approve Lindsay Papencheck for the Class 3 position of instructional aide at the shop for the junior senior high school, retroactive to September 1st, 2020, and consistent with the terms of the Secretary, Cafeteria, and Aides Collective Bargaining Unit Agreement. Number 5, to recall from furlough and approve Michelle Tate for the Class 3 position of instructional aide at the junior senior high school, retroactive to September 8th, 2020, and consistent with the terms of the Secretary, Cafeteria, and Aides Collective Bargaining Unit Agreement. Number 6, to approve retroactively the following individuals who distributed Chromebooks to parents on August 21st and 22nd, 2020, between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. for the terms of the Secretary, Cafeteria, Aides Collective Bargaining Unit Agreement. Number 7, to accept the letter of resignation from the nurse's aide Donna Hope, effective August 26, 2020, and consistent with the terms of the SCA Collective Bargaining Unit Agreement. Number 8, approve the letter of resignation of long-term special education substitute teacher Carolyn Novak, effective August 19th, 2020, as submitted. Number 9, to award the position of long-term special education substitute teacher at Carnegie Elementary School to Erin Connor, retroactive to August 19th, 2020, and consistent with the terms of the CFT Collective Bargaining Unit Agreement. And number 10, approve the letter of intent to retire as submitted by elementary band teacher Russ Peterson, effective December 23rd, 2020, and consistent with the terms of the Carlynton Federation of Teachers Collective Bargaining Unit Agreement. Do I have a motion for those 10 items?
So moved.
Moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. And congratulations to some folks who are electing to retire on an excellent time with Carlynton. Thank you for your service. Appreciate it very much. Under Section 8, Student Services, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agreement between the district and Bishop Canevin High School for an athlete participation fee for student athletes participating in cooperative athletic programs as submitted in Appendix A. So I have a motion for that item 8.1.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Move in second. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Under Section 9, old business. Any director have any old business they would like to bring up tonight? If not, under Section 10, new business. Any director have any new business they'd like to address? If not, we'll move on to open forum. Mrs. Zanone, are there any members of our audience that wish to speak or ask a question of the administration of the board?
I do have hands raised. Debbie Sedagas, if you would say your name in case I did it wrong and your address. You are allowed to talk.
Debbie might be on mute.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
There we go.
So yes, you got it correct. Debbie Sedagas, and I live at 38 Elmwood Street, Grafton. And I just had a question in regards to the superintendent's plan for reopening. You had mentioned a new plan after the first 9 weeks. Does that mean that we will continue with remote learning through the first 9 weeks?
Yes, that is correct. We'll remain in the remote setting for the first 9 weeks. If we achieve our goal faster than the end of the 9 weeks, we will do that, but we're shooting for the end of the 9 weeks.
Perfect, thank you.
Next is Lynn Ohara. You are able to talk. Oh wait, she's using an older version of Zoom.
So, Ms. O'Hara, I believe from previous experiences, there are some older versions of Zoom that don't work with the platform. So I apologize. Does anyone recall the direction from Mr. Jones in previous meetings?
The only thing that we had them do was log out, do the update, and be able to re-access, or go into the question and answer and just type the question, and then we can read the question and have that answered. We do have one question that is written, and I can have that one read right now, and just pertains to, and I believe Mr. Jeswick is prepared to answer this one. Says, when you get a chance, please address the content of the PPS tuition agreement and how it came about. Mr. Jeswick, do you have that?
Yes, I do. I don't have the whole agreement in front of me right now, but that had to do with a special ed student that was moved into by an agreement with our previous pupil services district. This, I think it goes back, it might go back even a few years, where it was just a program, the needs of the student. That's where the child was placed.
Thank you, Mr. Jeswick. If we can move to the next person that has a comment. Is it Rebecca?
Yes, Rebecca Schaefer. She also has an old version of Zoom. Rebecca, if you could type your question in the questions, we'll read it.
Okay, so it looks like
Sam Wilcox can now speak.
All righty, can y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. My name is Sam Wilcox. I live in Cubbage Street in Carnegie. Myself, I have a 5-year-old who's currently attending Carnegie Elementary School via Google Classroom. And myself, I'm going to school full-time. My wife works full-time. And I'm wondering, how am I supposed to continue doing this for another 5 weeks or however long it is? It's been an incredible draw on my resources, my wife's resources, as well as just trying to get to these classes on time while still trying to attend my own school.
And Mr. Wilcox, I believe we did speak on the phone as well, and I appreciate the conversation that we had. And you did share some information, and as I informed you, I would share that information with the board. And in regard to the opening statement that I made there, is that we are conscientious of that 5-day face-to-face instruction, and then also taking a look at specific subgroups of students to potentially bring back face-to-face in a 5-day segment. And those are some of the things that we'll be discussing over the next few weeks.
Well, I'm just asking because, I mean, it doesn't solve the issues that are present, you know, with me being able to attend my schooling. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to drop out. And I don't want to do that, you know, spending money to go here. Whereas my son, he's attending through my tax dollars and such, but his is beginning to seem as secondary compared to my own, you know, considering it's out of my pocket. And I don't really know how to handle this going on because I don't have childcare. I don't have the money for childcare right now. I don't want to have to pay somebody to watch my kid while I'm attempting to do the work that I need to do. So I'm trying to figure out what the alternative is to just giving up on what I'm trying to do as well. Because, I mean, you wouldn't expect somebody to go out and just quit their job. I shouldn't be expected to stop my schooling.
No, we certainly don't. And I think what we can do is potentially take a look at the specifics, see if there's additional support that we can provide on our side. We do have some of our instructional aides that are available also to help and assist with situations of this nature, to help guide the individual students through some challenging situations. So that's something I can work on, and then I can certainly follow up with a phone call to you as well, just to see how things are working out and see what other types of accommodations we can put in place in the interim. But certainly wouldn't want to see you drop out of school. That's correct.
I got you. I appreciate it. I look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
And Dr. Kreider, just to clarify, I think as you noted earlier, I believe as you stated, your intent or the district's intent is to likely have some form of hybrid or some form of in-person education potentially beginning at the beginning of the next 9 weeks. So in about 4.5 or 5 weeks from now, is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. We do have some other questions that were typed in. The one question here is, what is the soonest date that face-to-face would be implemented, and will busing be provided and comply with CDC regulations? The soonest that we would look for face-to-face would be towards the end of the 9 weeks is what we're looking at. So the beginning of the second marking period. And as far as any safety provisions in regard to busing and transportation, we did do a health and safety plan. It was passed and approved by the school board back in July. That safety plan does address transportation as well as other issues. And in the process of reopening plans based on the model, will be contingent then on how many students are riding district transportation. But yes, we will follow recommendations and guidance that are provided us and take into consideration those by the CDC and then also from the state of Pennsylvania. There are some that are recommendations, and then there are others that are mandates. And we will do our best to comply in the most safest manner to conduct all aspects of business with our children, whether it's through transportation or through feeding at lunch times and through the delivery of educational services in the classroom as well. So we will take that into consideration as well. Another follow-up question there was, what safety precautions will you take when students transition to another model in the 9 weeks? Once again, that's outlined in our health and safety plan, for which we have numerous health and safety initiatives in place as students come back into the schoolhouse. Some of the things we look for are providing parents at home with information on how to check for COVID symptoms through self-screening at home. We have temperature scanners in place at each of our buildings, so students would be scanned for temperature prior to entering into our buildings. We have a very intensive cleaning schedule that's in place that our custodians are currently doing right now. We've purchased a lot of additional equipment to help sanitize all areas of our building. We have masking requirements. We have social distancing requirements. We have markings on our floors, signs posted in many areas of our building, just reinforcing how to prevent the spread of COVID. And then the educational component that is reinforced in all of our classrooms to help our students understand the importance of staying home if you're ill, maintaining social distance, and then also wearing masks throughout. So there are many safety precautions that we have embedded in to work with our staff and with our students as well. If we could go back to some of the live questions. I'll take a look at some of the other questions that were typed in as well here.
Eric Manfold. Aaron Manfold, sorry. You are
Hi.
able to talk?
Hi, yes, this is Erin Manifold. I live at 415 and a half Center Avenue. I just wanted to clarify. So after the 9 weeks, are you thinking more of going to a traditional 5-day? Because it sounds like, you talked about, obviously consistency is important. So are you thinking, is that kind of what the plan is, to not do a hybrid and go to the 5-day? And if so, will there still be an opportunity for students to stay in a remote program if they feel, if that's the best fit for them?
Yes, very good questions. And that is one of the things that we started with in the very beginning, was that we had indicated to all parents that throughout the course of the school year, if you would like your child to stay home and work remotely, that we would be able to provide that. And we would still like to stay committed to being able to provide that service. Additionally, when we take a look at that consistency type of model, we value that consistency, that 5-day of instruction that takes place with students, whether it's remote or whether it's face-to-face. If we move to a traditional model, most likely it will not be 100% across the board K through 12. It may be with populations of students. For example, it could be with subgroups of elementary students. It could be possibility middle school age student. We're not exactly sure on what that model would look like. So in a hybrid sense, it could be that some groups of our students are working differently than other students. So there may be some students that are coming 5 days a week, and there may be other students who are working at home 5 days a week, but we would keep that consistent among grade levels.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Sure.
So if a student would choose to, stay in the remote setting, would they still receive actual live instruction, or would they have to, work from recordings and whatnot? Because I think it will be really, difficult for teachers to manage both simultaneously.
It is a challenge, and that's some of the things that we're learning from the hybrid model that is being incorporated by some other school districts, is that it creates a challenge to deliver instruction to students sitting in front of you live, and then also students who are sitting at home. And I think what makes that more complex is the lack of consistency as well, with some students coming in on Monday, Tuesday, and then other students coming in on Thursday, Friday.
Mm-hmm.
What we may find is that with greater consistency, with students electing to learn from home and more consistent with students reporting in the classroom, that aspect may make it a little bit more manageable on the teaching side. But those are things that we're going to explore in depth, work very closely with our staff to help come up with some protocols on how we can make that work in the most efficient manner, because it's that consistency. When we talk face-to-face, we're learning a lot in the remote environment, that the face-to-face instruction, even though it's between two computers, is also becoming very valuable as a method of delivery. But it's still, it's not a replacement for that face-to-face in the classroom, which we're hoping that we can get to very, very soon. But across the board, K through 12, it's going to take significant amount of time.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure if they stayed remote that they weren't just, doing workbooks and like watching a recording, they would get the live. And shout out to Miss Feckety. She's doing an awesome job with the kindergarten. My daughter loves it, and she's just doing a great job with you online.
Well, we appreciate that, and I'm sure she appreciates that as well, and I will pass that along to her also. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We don't have any more hands raised, but we do have questions.
Okay, do you want to go through and read some of those questions for us?
Sure.
I believe there's one in there I see. Says youth places, call and ask for Learning Hub. Someone told me about this resource, and there are minimal kids in it right now since no one has this information. The lady I spoke to stated that it was free. Please pass this information on. A phone call would help to call and ask them. The mother I spoke to, the kids went to a city school. So there's a resource out there, youth places, that just making people aware of. Separate question here, can music classes be delayed until in-person instruction is resumed? With 2 students participating in remote learning and both myself and my wife working at home, it becomes distracting. My guess is there you have 2 talented students who are working with maybe a trombone, a trumpet, and can certainly be a distraction in the home. We can check with our music staff to see what types of accommodations they feel that they can put in place. But unfortunately, with our schedule and our continued commitment to being able to provide all courses across the board, there's not a lot that we can do to delay that, but I can share that information with our music staff. I'll make sure to write down the name here and check the building, whether it's elementary or senior high school. That's the part I'm not sure of, but look to see if we can do something with that. Next question talks about discussing with the teacher, emotional support teacher, as well as the principal, Mrs. Burleson. We're struggling through it, but I'm concerned, as I've already seen grades dropping in focus, is lost due to technical issues as well as delays with the rest of the students. I will email them again tomorrow and request that we come up with a plan that will work better for the child. Thank you. And what I will do is I will work very closely with Mrs. Burleson again to address this issue here and get you some specific feedback as far as personal phone call to work through some of the issues that you're experiencing. Another question says, hello, I want to first say how great you guys and the teachers are doing online. My question is for remote learning students that are going to stay remote due to medical conditions or just people who don't feel, sorry, the screen jumped on me there, or for people who don't feel safe sending their children. How is this going to affect them with the way the children are in class? Is it going to take time away from them? Would they be put on the back burner? My son is doing so well like this. I would like to stay the same. Change is hard for him with his special ed issues, and I would like to have him not lose out with other children either. So that we somewhat addressed that question. It's a very important question that when we do move to a different form and still provide learning access to our students from home while we teach other students in the face-to-face environment. And as I mentioned before, if we have that opportunity where it's more on a consistent basis, where it's a group of students in the classroom on a consistent basis and a group of consistent students at home, I would project that those services will look a little bit closer to what we're doing right now. And again, that's where I want to solicit the input from our professional staff to dig into that a little bit deeper. But certainly we do not want to place any of our students on the back burner. That is something that we are committed to. And that's where we are right now. We believe we're experiencing a lot of great success. Talking with teachers and looking at attendance rates, we have very good attendance. And also working with one of our teachers today, indicating that they compared one of their recent tests that they just provided in the classroom to what it looked like last year, and performance results are very, very similar. So we are able to provide that instruction in that remote environment and still get the same results that we have in the past. And certainly we don't want to, like I mentioned, we don't want to put any students on the back burner. So we will look to do that, to provide that instruction to all students in an equitable manner. Next question is remote learning being considered during the winter months once in-person resumes instead of snow days. We did fill out information with the state of Pennsylvania in regard to flexible instructional days, which you may hear referred to as FIDS. So the school district did apply and granted permission that we can use flexible instructional days, up to 5 of those throughout the course of the school year. In the event we experience any inclement weather or any type of building emergency where water would be shut off, anything of that nature, we can quickly move to a remote model, and then those days would count as school days and would not need to be made up at the end of the school year. But we do have a limit of up to 5 days that we can use throughout the course of the school year. Full list of learning hubs was provided in Allegheny County. We can take a look at that information and potentially share that out with parents with an e-blast.
Yeah, and Dr. Kreider, that information, the very first location that comes up on that site, it's basically a location that you can go and get in-person direction. They help the kids to troubleshoot. The very first site that comes up is one that is dedicated. It includes Carlynton students. It's the Craft and Children's Corner location. I think it's their location on Banksville Road, but Carlynton is the school district, one of 3 or 4 that are served there. So if the parents, this was the question, and it serves grades K through 3. So if they go to that website, that will be the information on where, and they provide Wi-Fi, they help them troubleshoot with their curriculum, but this is the Carlynton location.
Very good. Thank you for the clarification. Next question. Can you help go explain the metrics or factors that will help change our model? Here again, the screen just jumped, I apologize. Help change the model for remote to in-person or hybrid instruction. For instance, if numbers stay the same, will our model change at the 9 weeks? If this is the case, why not change right now? Those are good questions. In regard to the transmission rates in the area, as we mentioned, the transmission rates are relatively stable. They are less than 100 per day. When we look at the Allegheny County website and dealing with Allegheny County Health Department, we are in the moderate range as far as the transmission rates, which looks at the advice that are given to school systems are that when we're in the moderate range, that either hybrid or remote learning can be offered. And so at this point, there's a little bit of twofold to it that we started to look at in the very beginning of the school year. Is when we came out with our model, we are looking for consistency. We have that consistency right now. What we feel is that students and teachers have had these first 2 weeks or so where they have become very fluent with working with the remote setting. And to drop and change things right now, what we looked at would be a little bit of an immediate change on things, and we want to play this out a little bit longer and still provide us with that time to explore another model that we feel is going to be effective, where we can get students inside the schoolhouse as opposed to keeping all students out. At the same time, recognizing that we're not going to be able to bring in all students K through 12 at one individual time. So to say the specific metrics and factors, we are looking at transmission rates naturally. Flu season is coming up. Whether that has a huge impact on the numbers and the fluctuation there, those are things that we'll take into consideration. And we've also had other school districts in the local area who have opened up recently with face-to-face instruction. And for the most part, things are going very well with them, although there are some cases where teachers are needing to quarantine, students are needing to quarantine, which that does have a disruption on the services that are provided across the board. But those are the things that we will start to take a look at. And the rationale for not doing it right now is just that quick change of moving from one model to the next. Okay, Boys and Girls Club is another in Carnegie. Next question is, I don't understand why the remote learning kids can't have the same education as other person students. That would not be fair to remote learners. It is not my child's fault that he has medical conditions and not attend school personally, and he will not lose out on learning when he really doing really good like this. It should not be taken away from them. They should education that in schools get If you can provide it now, you should be able to provide it then. I believe I addressed that earlier in regard to one of the parents who made a statement about putting students on the back burner. That's not our goal. We want to make sure that the services that we're currently providing is that we are still able to provide that in the future as well, regardless of the model that we use. It's not necessarily going to be the same, simply because as we transition from a remote learner to a face-to-face, that's not the same services that we're providing as well. But we definitely want to make sure that we're not having students lose opportunities for interactions with their teachers, and then also interactions with their peers. However, our goal is to bring students physically back into the schoolhouse and have the least disruption on all students in general. And quite honestly, that's the struggles that we're moving through over the past 6 to 8 weeks, with targets that are moving on us, guidance that is being provided to us from the healthcare industry and also from the state of Pennsylvania. It's trying to make the best decision for all students. We recognize that as we make these decisions, in some cases, there's 3 good reasons to do it. There's 3 good reasons not to do it. But the bottom line is we need to make a decision. We can't be indecisive in many ways. The bottom line is we need to go through and make decisions. Another question here is question earlier. It did not get lost, but you're re-asking it again. I was going to come back up to it. Conceptualize how 6.2 works, the Linden property, in terms of how it affects the sales process. So 6.2, Angie, if you could scroll back up to 6.2 so that I can see it on the screen, and just want to make sure which real estate issue that is. And 6.2 is the second amendment to the agreement. And Mr. Andrews, I don't know if you want to provide some insight on precisely what this does. It basically sends the timeline down the road a little bit. But
that's basically all that it does. It moves the timelines out to March 31st for the potential buyer to be able to get all of the approvals that would be necessary to develop the property as they desire, to get the approval of, and those things are primarily in the hands of the Crafton Borough. The assemblage means that we would have to acquire title to the property now owned by Crafton with the reverter back to the district. And if that is accomplished, then can the buyer secure the necessary zoning and other documents and requirements from the borough of Crafton to construct and operate the business that they have in mind. Frankly, those are things that are not within the control or the auspices of the Carlynton School District. Our only ability in this regard is to sell the property, and of course with the approval of the court. So it does that. With the Second Amendment, really does not change anything that has not existed up to this time, other than to move it out to March 15th, with the hope that the deal can be accomplished.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. And Mr. Vouchef, just to put that into a little bit more context as far as how it affects the sales process, basically what it does is it provides more time. There was a timeline that was built in that expired on September 14th. We worked very closely with Armstrong over the weekend to get this agreement pushed to us to be reviewed. So it doesn't change the sales process at all. It just provides a little bit more time so that Crafton Council can continue to work on plans and work closely with Armstrong is what that does.
That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Looking at what I have here is the last question here. It says, I'm curious if you have a plan dealing with tech support. I completely understand how overwhelmed the tech support is right now, but I've reached out multiple times through emails, even speaking to someone. They took my number down and never got back to me. How are we supposed to deal with this issue without making these kids watch all the videos again because of the tech problems? One suggestion I would have there, this one does not have a name attached to it. It's by an anonymous attendee. However, the board has always been very conscientious to make sure that all members are heard. If you could please send me an email just with the specific details, with the name of your child, the building, and any related issues that you could provide. My email address is John, John, Kreider, K-R-E-I-D as in David, E-R, at carlynton.k12.pa.us. I will make sure that whatever issue that you're having, we apologize for the delay with that, but we'll make sure that whatever issues you're having, we'll get those worked out. A couple more came in here. And just to give you an update on total number of attendees, we're at 35 right now. I believe we did peak at about 60 from what I saw. And email. Okay, and the other one comes in here that says that they already sent, it says that they sent me and others multiple emails. I will look for that email, and unfortunately, I do not recall receiving an email in regard to a tech issue. I do apologize if I missed it. I will go through, I'll search your name this evening to see what I can find out and get you an answer quickly. I do apologize. Okay, at that, I don't see any other hands raised, and I do not see any other questions in the queue.
No, I don't see anything either.
Okay, and I turn it back to you, Mr. Shriver.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Kreider. Turning to our board, open forum for our board. Anyone on the board want to bring up any issues or ask any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved, second, and thank you very much. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.